Open your book to page 172. Today's lesson is on factoring. So on page 172, the first thing we're going to go over is common factor. So again, if you look on your handout, so first thing you need to do is do the common factor. So that would be example 1. So example 1a, you have 2x to the 4 minus 4x to the 3 plus 6x squared. So common factor is you look what do they have in common. Again, first you do is look at the number or the coefficient, then the variable and the group. So you got 2, 4, and 6. So you can factor out the 2. And the variable, you got x squared, x cubed, x4. So you can factor out x squared. So that's what you can factor. Factoring means you divide. So when you divide by this, you can figure out what is left over. Or you can do it the other way. By ask yourself, okay, this one times what will give you that? So answer will be x squared, right? 2x squared times x squared will give you x to the 4. And if you line up, it will help you to be organized and avoid careless mistakes. So this would be a 2, right? 2 times 2 give you 4. And it would be x. Again, notice this would be in decreasing order, right? And this would be plus 3. And so this is called a common factor. So step 1, common factor, factor what they have in common. So you do the same thing with b. So example 1b, you have 3ax cubed minus 15a cubed x. So again, look at the number. You got 3 and 15, so you can factor out the 3. And so this would be -5, right? So that takes care of the number. Then you go to the alphabet. You got a and a cubed, so you can factor out the a. So this would be a squared. And you got x cubed and x, so you can factor out the x. So you got x squared left over, and that's it. Okay, so this is a common factor. So this is step 1 on your list. Okay, so that's your step 1 common factor. So so every problem you need to go through the checklist. So check step 1, then after that you go to step 2. Okay, so common factor, then you go to spatial factor. Now there are 3 types of spatial factor, depends on number of terms. So this is 2 terms, 3 terms, and more than 3 terms. So let's go to example 4. No, actually it's not example 4. Example 3. Let's go to example 3. Sorry, back up. 2c. So example 2c, you have the 9x squared minus 16y squared. So you go through the checklist, right? Step 1, common factor, right? Again, step 1, common factor. So do we have anything in common? No. So step 1 cannot. So you go to step 2. Okay, so step 2, you're looking for difference of squares. So this is a square, yeah. So difference of square means you have perfect square minus perfect square. So yes, so this is your step 2a. So step 2a, difference of square, you make into conjugates. So make into 2 sets, plus, minus. Okay, and always do the plus first. Okay, again, that's a good reason for that, in case if you have to repeat. Okay, so break down this into conjugate. So you're going to get 3 and 3, right? 3 times 3 give you 9. X times x give you x squared. Plus times minus give you minus. 4 times 4 give you 16. Y times y give you y squared. Okay, so this is the difference of square factored into conjugates. This is called a conjugates, and that's it. So that's your step 2a. Okay, now step 2b got 3 terms. So these are your trinomial squares. So this would be example of 2a. So you got x squared plus 12x plus 36. So again, you go through the checklist. Step 1, common factor, cannot. So you go to step 2, number of terms, 3 terms. So you want to check for trinomial square, and that would be that format. Okay, so the way to check is this is a perfect square, this is a perfect square. And so you want to guess. So from here, in order to get x squared, you need to have an x, right? So x squared will give you x squared. Over here, to get 36, you need to get plus 6. Okay? So again, 6 squared give you 36. Then you have to match the, so right now you're just guessing. So from this, you guess this. From the 36, you guess the 6. Now you have to check, see if your guess is correct. And the way to check is by check the middle term. So 2 times 6 is 12 times x is 12x. So checks. So that's your answer. That means your guess is correct. Okay. So now let's go to 2b. Example 2b. You have 4u squared minus 4uv plus v squared. So again, step 1, common factor. Do we have anything to factor? No. So step 2, special factor. You check the terms, right? There are 3 terms. So these are perfect square, perfect square. So you're going to get perfect square, right? So again, over here, to get 4, you need to get 2, right? 2 squared give you 4. And you need to have a u, right? U squared give you u squared, right? So you can use this to guess that, use that to guess that. Now, the middle term, in order to match that, you need to have a minus, right? Again, you have to kind of start to think a little bit ahead. And so this would be v squared. So again, negative squared give you plus, right? Again, v squared give you v squared. Now you have to check the middle term. Again, right now you're just guessing. You use this to guess that, you use this to guess that, use this to guess this. So to check the middle term, you multiply all this together. So negative match with negative. 2 times 2 give you 4. And variable u and the v check match with the u and the v. So anything match, that means your guess is correct, and that's it. Okay. So again, this is from your Algebra 1. Okay. So if you don't get this from your Algebra 1, then you need to go ahead and get this video, and you can watch and make sure you get everything. So that's your step 2. That's your step 2b. When you have 3 terms, okay, you get this perfect square and you check. Okay. Now let's go to example 5. So step 2c. So example 5. 5a. So you have 2xy minus 6 plus 4x minus 3y. So again, step 1, common factor, cannot. So step 2, special factor. There are 4 terms, so that is this one here. So 4 terms, right? Again, when you have more than 3 terms, you have to do the grouping. Now normally when you're doing the grouping, you group the way it's written, okay? Unless you get stuck. And you always put a plus between the group, always. Okay? And this plus is not that plus, okay? So make sure that realize you always put a plus between the group. And again, this is not that, okay? This plus actually comes inside. Then what you need, so basically what you do is you have one complicated problem. You're going to divide into 2 easier problems, okay? So now you're going to do factoring. Now you're going to get stuck because when you factor the 2, you get xy minus 3. Over here, you cannot factor. So you got stuck. That means your grouping is not correct. Okay? So that means this is bad. Then all you have to do is, most of the time it will work. But in some cases, that it will not work. So if it does not work, all you have to do is just redo the grouping. Okay? Just group differently. So instead of group these 2, maybe you can group these 2 instead. So let's try that. And group these 2 together. And since you have y in the front, so you might have to do the y in the front. Okay. So again, you want to kind of arrange in order, right? With a variable in front. So now let's go and do the factoring. Okay. So again, this is a special plus in between, right? So over here, you can factor the 2x. So you're going to get y plus 2. Okay. So again, when you break into 2 easier problems, you have to go back to step 1 again, right? So you have complicated problem, you break into 2 easier problem, and then so you have to do each of these from the beginning again, all these steps. Now, on the second group, if there's a negative, you must factor out a negative. So we're going to factor out a negative 3, so you're going to get y plus 2. So watch, okay? You have to watch your signs over here. So now, notice you have the y plus 2, y plus 2. So now you can go and factor these things out. So factor the y plus 2. So once you factor out, it's gone, right? So your left over would be 2x minus 3. Okay, and so that is your answer. So this is called a grouping. Now let's go and do example 5b. Normally, when you don't have a squares, you just go and group 2 and 2. Now when you have a cases like 5b, you got u squared minus 4v squared minus 4u plus 4. So what you need to do is you have to recognize the perfect squares. Okay, so when you have squares, okay, especially when you have minus squares, you need to group into 3 and 1. So you need to do the u squared minus 4u plus 4 minus 4v squared. So over here, when there's no square, you group into 2 and 2, and it works out. Over here, there's a minus a perfect square. Again, if you see the minus perfect square, that's your clue that you need to group into perfect square and minus the square. Okay? So you need to group that into 3 and 1. So you need to recognize your perfect square. So this is going to become u minus 2 squared. Okay? So again, this is your perfect square. That's your step 2b. So you got to know that. Okay, so and then after that, you need to recognize that this is the difference of squares. So you got square minus square, right? So that's your step 2a again. So when you factor the difference of square, what you need to do is you need to do this, especially when things get messy. Okay? So you need to put plus or minus. So the perfect square, see the square over here? That's going to be your u minus 2, right? Again, u minus 2 times u minus 2 give you u minus 2 squared. Over here, you need to get 2v and 2v, right? 2v times 2v give you 4v squared. So again, that's your difference of square. You learn this in Algebra 1. Okay, you're supposed to know this. Okay, so this is the grouping. So that's your step 2. Okay, now go on the list. So your next on the list is the cubes. Okay, so we're going to do the cubes next. So let's go to example 4. Okay, example 4a. Now before we go to that, let's go over how to do the cubes. So for the cubes, right, if you have a to the 3 plus b to the 3, don't go sideways. Okay, this is what you want to do. Put one parenthesis below that and put another bigger parenthesis. And the way so this is the cube, right? When you factor, you're going to become the single and a double, right? Cube is like 3, the third power. You're going to factor into the first power and the second power. So to factor into the first power is very easy. You just go and cover that up, and that's it. So that's your first power. So now, over here, the second power is very easy. Again, you just square that, right? So you're going to get a squared. So you square that, you get that. Or a times a squared give you a cubed. And same thing with it, you're going to get plus b squared, right? Again, this is a square of that, this is a square of that. And the reason for that, you need that is so that you multiply, you get that, multiply, you get that. Now, you have to watch the middle term. Okay? Because what happens when you multiply this, when you distribute, notice there's no middle term. That means you have to find a way to cancel out the middle term. Again, when you distribute, you're going to get lots of terms. So to cancel that out, to get that, you need to take the opposite of that. So you see the AB and it's plus, right? So you need to get minus AB. So that way, when you distribute, all the middle term get canceled out and it becomes that. Okay? Now, when you're doing the subtraction, the difference is the same way. A cubed minus B cubed. Okay? So again, you just go and cover it up. You get a minus b. And so you need to have a squared. A times a squared give you a cubed. You need to get plus b squared, right? Because b minus b times b squared give you minus b cubed. So always plus. Now again, when you distribute, again you need to go and you can go and do the distributive property, go and multiply it, and you can see what I mean by that. So when you distribute, you're going to get a lot of middle term. In order to cancel out, because look over here, there's no middle term over here. So you need to take the opposite of these to become plus AB. Okay? So that way when you distribute, the minus and the plus will all cancel out and you end up with A cubed minus B cubed. Okay. So now let's go and do the example 4a. So to factor z cubed plus 1. So think of this as 1 cube. Okay, again, you get one parentheses, none up, and one bigger parentheses. So to do the first one is easy. You just carve up the cube. So you're going to get z plus 1. So you're going to get z squared, right? You square that, you get z squared, and 1 squared, you get plus 1, right? And you can check, right? Z times z squared give you z cubed. 1 times 1 give you 1, right? So now the middle term, to cancel out the middle term, you need to take the opposite of that. So it'd be minus 1z, right? So it'd be minus z, and that's it. Okay. Now let's do the 4b. So you got 8x3 minus y cubed. So if it's not too obvious, then what you do is make this into 2 cubed, x cubed minus y cubed. Okay, make everything to cube. And then you get the parentheses, right? Again, to do the first one is very simple. You just carve up the cube, and that's it. So it'd be 2x minus y. Okay. Now over here, you just have to square that. You're going to get 4x squared. You square that, you get plus y squared. And you can check, right? 2 times 4 give you 8. X times x squared give you x cubed, right? Minus y times y squared give you minus y cubed, right? So again, you just square that. This is a single power, and you square that, you get double power. So single power times double power give you, third power, right? Now the middle term, again, is going to be opposite of these, right? So it becomes plus 2xy, right? Again, plus 2xy. And so when you distribute, all the middle term can cancel out, and you end up with that. And so that's it. So that's how you factor the cube. Okay? So that's your step. That is your step 3. Now for step 4, we're going to do it on the next lesson. Okay? So let's go look at example 3. So every problem you need to go through the steps. So you have 3x to the 5 minus 48x, right? So again, so when you're doing the factoring, go through the checklist. Step 1, common factor. You can factor the 3x. So it becomes x to the 4 minus 16. Okay, so that's your step 1. So now you go to step 2. Notice this is an even power. So this is the difference of square. So you need to go and make into plus minus, right? Again, 2 terms. That's your step 2, right? Over here. That's your step 2. 2 terms. You make into conjugate, right? And so you're going to get x squared plus 4 minus 4, right? Now, whenever you have squared, you have to keep checking. Now, this one you cannot do anymore, so you leave that alone. So this one you cannot do anymore. But this one is a difference of square again. So you have to do it one more time. So you're going to get x 2, 2, right? And that's it. So again, you go through the checklist. Okay, go through the checklist and do it step by step. Okay, so let's go and do some practice.